este painel é para nós muito importante, é um painel onde vamos falar e contar um pouco da história deste projeto. Temos connosco o PETTER Dahle, que é da Norwegian, que colaborou connosco na formação dos líderes e também hoje está aqui connosco. O PETTER é do Centro Norueguês para a Competência e em termos da saúde mental comunitária. Tem uma longa experiência de colaboração em iniciativas lideradas pelos utilizadores para facilitar e capacitar os utilizadores na escolha e desenvolvimento de serviços locais, e tem trabalhado de forma muito próxima com os peer workers, ou seja, com a integração de pessoas com experiência de doença mental como trabalhadores nas equipas dos serviços. E é para escutar também essa experiência que convidamos. Peter, muito obrigada por ter aceitado estar aqui connosco, por ter aceitado ter colaborado connosco neste projeto, e passava já a palavra. Obrigada.
Thank you very much, and thank you for making such a good webinar. I'll share my screen with you, so please let me know if it's working now.
Yes.
Just a minute. Thank you. Yes, I work at the Norwegian Competence Center for Community Mental Health, and an essential part of our work is to facilitate and also advocate for more and better user-driven services. In order to do this, we work in different ways, but I think it's the most important and perhaps the most crucial thing we can do is to make the floor available for the services and the services for the users themselves, in order to hear their voice and also listen to what they are saying, because in that direction I think the future of the services will be. We work with peer workers, we work with people with lived experiences, but also with the users of the services. I think we have to look a little bit on what's going on. And we have heard a lot about this already today, because this doesn't appear in a vacuum. It's been a story now for at least 30, 40 years with a more person-driven approach in the services. I think you will see this all over the Western world, at least, and also in Norway, where I live and come from. And we have seen a change the last 20, 30 years in more user-led services and self-determination. In practice, this means that the users themselves can choose where they want to live, what kind of apartment, what kind of neighborhood they want. And we have to listen to what they want to fill their days with when it comes to work or activities, and also what kind of treatment they want to receive. That's different from person to person. And most people with lived experiences know best themselves what kind of treatment that actually works for them. And in this landscape, we see an emphasis on resources, activities, and everyday life. We see that the service providers more today ask and identify the resources of the users instead of look at the clinical symptoms and the lack of skills and so on. These are things they have heard too often in their lives. And also, I think we see a progress now in more recovery-oriented services. When the local-based services in Norway are asked what kind of recovery orientation do they find today, 75% of them say that their services are recovery-oriented. And approximately the same amount say that the services are listening to the users in different ways. And we see that peer workers now, at least in 30% of the local services, work there. And also the use of, more systematically user feedback tools are frequent. But still, we see that many are still struggling with prejudice and discrimination in society, from the services themselves, but also in, the rest of the society. And that's a big problem for many. We work in different fields when it comes to experiences from user-led initiatives. And this is just a small part of it. It has to be briefly. But we see, that the user hubs and activity centers that I think you will find in Portugal as well, they operate as a place of acceptance, respect, but also empowerment for the users themselves. And we see that the more user-led these kind of centers are, the more empowered the users get. And that's very important, because you have to give the power to the users. This is not happening everywhere, but we see that some of the centers are driven in that direction, and that's a good development. What we see also is that there are some kind of subgroup basis for these activity centers. People with the more severe mental health problems are grouped together, people with the drug addictions are grouped, and also people with more mild problems are grouped. You have to do this to get the diversity that actually exists. But that's also a problem, because it seems to be difficult to have a unified force that actually can give this momentum that we need to change the services. And also, it's hard to unify the voices and the choices. People choose different things for themselves, also the users. So I think we still need to go away when it comes to the unified force that we can be together. And also we see, as we heard earlier today, that the use of user-driven research and competence sensors are going on. We have we have some user organization that do research themselves, but they also represent a task force for other centers that do research. And this is important, because we see that the focus of the research are changing when the users themselves are involved. And also, I think what the service, the user of the services are actually telling these researchers is different when users are asked by users. They are more honest, and perhaps they're not afraid to tell the truth. And also we see that the user organization are changing perhaps a little bit the way they're working. These organizations are well known in the country, also locally, but they are small and they are fragmented. And often we see that they have to work on projects themselves that actually are a supplement to the ordinary services. And that's a good thing, because you meet the need of the other users, but it's also a kind of problem, because you don't always work what you think it's most important. And that's often work at a system and political level. So that's something that the user organization are addressing themselves. But we see, that the user organization are getting more empowered, and that's good. And also we have user involvements through boards and panels. The local communities and also the different kinds of the governments are bringing users in panels and boards together in workshops, so their voice are heard in the strategies and also in the prioritization. We see this happening more and more, and some of the panels that we have are 100% of user themselves, the organization, and also what the panels are dealing with. And we see some of the panels are actually a big and clear voice when it comes to the local development. And in this picture, we have the peer workers. You can find them everywhere, and they are a crucial contact point and also a crucial coordination between this kind of different efforts. So what do we do as a center, to make a holistic approach to this? Well, we have to work in different fields. We have to work with all the networks that we can find everywhere. Networks for user organization, network for peer workers, but also network for the leaders, because the leaders are a key target point when it comes to change the systems. And we also work within, these kind of schools of experiences and schools of recovery. And these kind of organizations and institutions are growing every year in Norway. And we see that in the future, they will play a major part when it comes to further development. And also the national governments are listening more and more to this kind of initiatives and the local programs. So before I end, I just show you some pictures of what kind of work we are doing together with different kind of organizations, where the users and their voice are in the lead of the development. Some people are working with feedback treatment, some are working with houses, some are working with user panels. So thank you very much for listening.